Hi, Brian. Thank you for hosting this week's ReadyHarris Live. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about today's topic?
Sure. My name is Brian Murray, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Harris County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We're live in the Harris County Emergency Operations Center this afternoon to talk to you a little bit more about preparedness. As you may be aware, this is National Preparedness Month, and our goal this month is to spend some time helping the residents of Harris County and our friends out in the region be a little more prepared for the hazards we face here in the county. Last week we talked about having a plan with Jeff Lindner. Today I'm going to talk to you about a very important component, which is having an emergency kit. What it means to have one, what you need to put in it, and how you maintain it over time.
Okay, so then where do residents start?
You know, I think the very first thing you have to remember is that emergency kits are not for hurricane season only. Harris County is a very active place. We face a lot of potential threats, whether that's weather from hurricanes or flooding or thunderstorms, or from man-made incidents such as a hazardous chemical spill or something like that. So you have to be ready to face a disaster or an incident every single day. So the very first thing you need to do is look in your house. What do you already own? Building an emergency kit could be an incredibly expensive venture. So if you start at home, find out what you already have. We have a checklist available at ReadyHarris.org. We have that available in several languages. Print it out, take inventory of your house, and then go and fill in the blanks as you need to. It's a really big thing for an entire family to do together, so that your kids, so that other people living in your household know what's in your kit and where the kit is stored.
Okay, so breaking down the kit a little bit, there are some components to it, right? What are the 5 main things that people should consider when building their kit?
So the first thing I think you have to pay attention to is the basic essential of food and water. Water, we usually tell people to have a gallon of water per person per day, and then have up to 7 days of water available. Keep in mind, though, that gallon per person per day is only drinking water. That doesn't include the fact that hopefully you'll want to brush your teeth or wash your hands, maybe clean some dishes. All of those things are important to have water for. So even if you're a gallon per person per day, there's no harm in having a little extra. In terms of food, non-perishable food, such as canned goods, are really the thing to have. And I'm going to stress this a lot. Make sure these are things you eat. You may have found a great deal on wax beans at Sam's, but if you don't like wax beans, they're just going to sit in the cabinet. So get things you'll eat. And I'm not telling you not to eat healthy. By all means do. But it's okay to throw in a few cans of ravioli or beefaroni or SpaghettiOs. Have what you'll eat. Have what your kids will eat. This may have to last you a few days, so make it stuff that you're not going to dread.
Okay, and so then when we're talking about water, right, you mentioned not just drinking water. So what is something that people don't think of that they need to be doing in order to kind of get that ready?
So there's a couple things that you can think of, and when I talk about starting at home, here's one good tip to help you go with that. You have bathtubs. If you have some advance warning that something may be happening and you have the possibility of losing access to water, go ahead and fill up your bathtubs. Make sure they're clean first so that you have drinking water, and if nothing else, you may have some extra water that you can use to flush the toilet. Other things you can do that a lot of people don't think of is if you have gallon milk jugs, fill those up with water. And if you have a deep freeze, put them in the bottom of the deep freeze, let them get frozen. Not only might that help you keep your frozen food good for a little bit longer, but as it thaws, you'll have drinking water. And finally, most people have water heaters. A water heater is about 30 gallons of water that can absolutely be drunk. You definitely want to cool it down first before you start drinking it, but that water is good to drink. And again, depending on the size of your water heater, that could be 10 to 30 gallons of water that you already have in your house.
Okay, so then we talked about sanitary water, using it to like clean dishes and stuff like that. What else should people consider in the sense of hygiene?
Hygiene's important. I think if there's anything we've learned over the past several years with COVID-19 is the importance of keeping things sanitary and keeping them sanitized. Definitely make sure that you have things like Clorox wipes. And yes, I'm using brand names, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. You have disinfectant. You have the wonderful, gels that we've all gotten used to using. And you have a first aid kit. You have rubber gloves. And I would even suggest making sure that you have some masks around. You could get into a situation where you have to leave your house, maybe go to a shelter for a time. being in close contact with people over time can get a little bit nerve-wracking right now, even after 2 years of COVID. So having those masks can come in handy.
Okay, and so extending the cleaning supplies, household items, what should they consider?
I'm going to tell you right now, bleach is number one. Bleach is like the number one disinfectant. It's obviously not something that you can ingest, but it's good for cleaning things. It's good for sanitizing. It's good for, that sort of thing. I think you also want to make sure you have household cleaners, things that you can, Windex, bathroom cleaners, things like that may be a little bit hard to come by over time. Those are all going to be things that are important. Along with that, I would definitely recommend, in fact, it's not even recommend, you have to have a first aid kit. You need to have access to things like bandages, like antiseptic cream, just things that'll take care of your minor first aid things. Getting medical attention may not be as easy during a disaster as it is at other times. At least having some basic first aid supplies can go a long way in helping keep you safe.
Okay, so, these are all things that people tend to have in their house, right? What are some things that they don't have at home that they should consider including in their kit?
Things you don't have at home that you might consider including. I think rubber gloves is certainly a good one. Not everyone has those. I think in the end, a lot of what we're looking at really is homebound, though. I mean, these are the things that keep you comfortable. And whether we're talking about feminine hygiene products, whether we're talking about flushable wipes, things like the dry hair shampoo, those things are important. It may not seem like much, but just not only from a hygiene standard, but just from making you feel better standard, getting yourself in a situation where you're clean and you're taken care of makes people feel a lot better about getting through a disaster, getting through an incident.
Okay, so when you look at a lot of lists from FEMA, from ReadyHarris, they mention radios. Yeah,
and radios is a very important one. Communication, I think we all kind of got a taste of this for a little bit during the winter storm as we lost power for a few days. In a lot of cases, the one lifeline you have is the ability to receive information. Absolutely top of your list, battery or powered or a hand crank powered weather band radio. That is the one way you can make sure that you're getting information, not just from your local news stations, not just a little bit maybe music to keep everyone entertained for a while, but also serious weather information directly from the National Weather Service. It's a very important thing. It's something a lot of people overlook, but that battery-powered radio is really important, or the hand crank radio. They're available, all of your home improvement stores. A lot of the drugstores carry them, but that's definitely going to be at the top of your list. And then along with that, I would say, make sure you've got batteries. I know in my house we have AAA and AA batteries everywhere. C and D cell batteries are the ones we usually forget to buy, and gosh, all of our flashlights and lanterns seem to run on those. So make sure for the items that you have in your kit, your flashlights, your lanterns, your radios, make sure you have the appropriate batteries to keep them powered.
So something also that I noticed in a lot of lists are comfort items, and so that's not just for your home, right? That's for your car or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that having your own pillow is a big deal, especially if you end up in a shelter or, in some other place that's not your home. Pillows, blankets, change of clothes, plush animals and things for kids. All of those things that they make you feel better. They make you feel cozy. That's a big thing to have for you, in your kids, a big thing to have access to, and it's important. Along with those, I would also say, there's a lot of things that we do for disasters that we don't do during normal times. You have to prepare for that, and one of them is, the potential of having to leave your house. So if you have things like sleeping bags, if you have things like cots that you have ready access to that you can throw in the back of the car if you have to leave, that's important to have. It's important for everyone to know where they are and know that it's possible that those may have to become portable items for you.
So to kind of piggyback off of that, right? If you have to leave your home, what are some things that residents tend to not think of that is important to have together?
That's a great question, and as part of this is not necessarily part of your kit, but there are things you should have together. You've got a lot of identification papers, whether that's your driver's license. You may have passports, passport cards, insurance information is another one, birth certificates, all of those items that identify you, that enable you to get health care. You need to have those in a place where you can grab them quickly and leave. I know a lot of people, after the big wildfires in California, one of the pieces of advice that came out was to keep those things in your hall closet near your front door.
So So we talked a little bit about what are the things at home that you can have and what are the things that you should have ready to go in case you need to leave. What are some things to do maybe to prepare your home? Like what kind of tools should you have?
You know, I think it's a good idea to have a basic toolkit. Hammers, screwdrivers, nails, screws, duct tape. I cannot even tell you how valuable duct tape can be. Things like utility knives. Those are big deal. Those may not seem like a big deal on a day-to-day basis, but when you need them, they're worth every penny you pay for them.
Okay, so we talked a lot about different items that you could have and different items you should consider, but you know, everybody's needs are different, right? And so what would you kind of expand on that?
Yeah, it's a really good point, Daisy, and I think it's important to remember that you're building this kit for you. You're not building it for your neighbor. It's kind of like with food. These are the things that you're going to use. These are the things that are important for your survival, for your comfort. And you need to make sure that the things in your kit are tailored for you and everybody in the house. I suggested earlier that you involve your children, other adult members of your family in the house. Involve them in building the kit. Make sure they understand the importance of having the things for them. It's down to something as simple as having puzzles and games around just to keep yourself occupied when there's no TV, when there's no electronics. It helps you pass the time. It helps you keep focused on, you know, keep your mind busy, and it makes it a little bit more pleasant.
Okay, so I guess to make sure we hit on all of the the information that could be useful to people, if an emergency were to be seen to happen coming up, what would be the first thing that residents should kind of do to buckle down and figure out what they need to have?
Well,
Like at home.
you know, we really hope that most people are in a situation where you're not having to scramble around at the last minute. That's really the best piece of advice I can give you on that. Have your kit together and keep it together ahead of time. I know in my house we do a really good job about buying water pretty much year round, but I will tell you there's times that we consume our stock of water that we have saved and we have to go back and replenish it. So the first thing I would say is if you have a kit, if you use items, replenish them. Make sure that the items are still in date. You know, even canned food expires. Medical supplies, first aid, those things expire. So check. A good rule of thumb: when the time changes and you change the battery in your smoke alarm, take a look at your emergency kit. Make sure everything's still in date. So I think the most important thing is that you want to make sure your kit's always ready. Now, having said that, you know, I think, you know, if you get to the point where you've got something you know is going to happen, a hurricane is coming, we know there's heavy rains coming, something like that, you know, making sure your home is prepared is the most important thing. Whether you're staying or leaving, making sure that, you know, your home is safe and secure is the most important thing. Making sure that your kit is, you know, open, you know where everything is. You know, is right along with that. But your kit really needs to be something that is not a last minute thing, it's an all the time thing. Last minute, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to see the scenes you see on TV with the empty shelves and the person with the cart. You don't want to be that person.
Okay, so let's go ahead and see if there's any questions
Sure.
on our live. I know that, you know, a lot of what you mentioned, it kind of hits on the fact that, you know, there's a lot of things to consider when building your kit, and cost is something that I think affects a lot of residents. So
It does, and if I can say before you get the question.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, you know, start at home. The other thing you can do is build your kit gradually. And by that I mean is buy an extra can of tuna when you go to the store, or whatever it is that you want to buy. Buy things gradually instead of doing it all at once. I think we did a calculation one time that buying the entire emergency kit was about $400. That's a lot of money for most people. So gather things slowly. It'll take the edge off of that rather expensive bite.
Okay. So do we have a question?
That was it.
Oh, okay.
That was it?
Making a kit seems very expensive. What can we do to help?
Yeah, that's the best thing. That's the best thing you can do.
Okay. So we talked about the home, right? But you mentioned what if you're not going to be at home? So I'm thinking car.
Yep.
Right. So what things do people need to consider?
That's a really good question, a really good point. I think number one, you need to make sure that good pieces of your actual kit is portable. So you can grab water, you can grab food, you can grab those comfort items to take with you. For the car itself, make sure you have a basic car repair kit. Does your car have a jack so you can change a tire? And this is going to sound like it's a no-brainer, but do you have chargers for your electronics in your car? That I know during the winter storm for a lot of people, going to their car and being able to recharge a phone was a big deal. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would make sure I had.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would want to make sure that residents think about? I think when we're talking about build a kit, it's kind of a big concept like make a plan, and so breaking it down is the best way for residents to get an understanding of it. Is there any final thing that you want to kind of make sure that residents have a stepping point to kind of?
I'm going to mention one more thing that I don't know how I forgot this early, because I have 2 dogs. Your kit needs to include your pets, whether that's cats, dogs, parakeets, I don't care what it is. Dog food, dog leashes, dog harnesses, puppy pads in case you have to travel with your pet, but all of the things that you need for your pet. And the other thing I'll mention is medication for people in the household. A lot of people take prescription meds. I don't know how I missed that on my notes, but I did. Prescription meds, making sure you have those with you, making sure that you have access to your doctor's information in case you have to go somewhere and go to a Walgreens out of town and actually have to get prescriptions refilled over the phone. Having those things together are very important, but make sure you have enough medicine for yourselves and your pets.
Okay, so
What are some good things to have in your kit for after a storm?
For after storm, I think that's really where your basic toolkit really comes in handy. There's a lot of things you may have to do to clean up, so having cleaning supplies, mops, brooms. Again, we mentioned Clorox and some of the things like Windex and stuff. Having the supplies you need to do maybe some basic repairs to clean things up and start getting back to your new normal.
okay. Thank you so much, Brian, for talking about Build a Kit. All week we are posting about what to look for at home to build your kit. So ReadyHarris is a great resource.
I would just again reiterate, go to ReadyHarris.org. We have a very large number of resources available, not only from us but from our partners, including the checklist to help make a kit. Those are available in English, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Vietnamese. So we have the resources for you, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.